welcome to Kevin Richards VIPs. My amazing guest today has overcome some amazing struggles to arrive here in Canada from far away. My guest today is Zarmina Nekzai. So I get to sit with my amazing guest, Zarmina, right now. There are stories about life that you will hear. Today is one of those days that I hope you really pay attention because this is absolutely amazing. I'm so glad I finally get to sit with you, Zarmina.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me as a guest for your show.
Oh, it's an honor. So I'm going to unpack this all right away. So there's so much to know. I'm just going to kind of shut up and let you talk. So I want to know what brought you to Barrie and how you got here, but I want to know a little bit about you growing up. If you can tell me your story.
Actually, I grew up in a small town in Kabul, Afghanistan. All my childhood in a town is called Mirbachakut, and I'm in a larger family. Like a 10 sibling.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest daughter in the family. What's brought me in a Barrie? Since my children is grown up in a very, very busy town and like a Toronto, and my daughter decided when I married, I would like to live in a Barrie. And we always passing Barrie, to go our college at the Perry Sound. They thinking, oh, mom, I love Barrie. I love to live in Barrie. That's make me to, when my daughter married, I make my decision to be her neighbor.
Awesome. And I love that so welcome to Barrie.
Thank you.
So tell me about your childhood, because this is just an amazing story. So please tell me about growing up in Afghanistan and the things you've experienced with your family and the losses, and please share.
Actually, I grew up in a very large family, like as I tell you at the beginning, with the parents, grandparents, aunts and uncle. I love large family. When my childhood, I had very passion in school. The first time when my aunt had registered my younger aunt to the school, I went with her, and the principal said, your age not reach up the time to come to the school. I said, no, I want to go to a school. And I start the age of 6 school. And the school is, when I grown up and time arrived, when I graduated from grade 6 elementary school, we don't have middle school. And I had a tear in my eyes. What can I do? And I have a passion for a school. And my father promised with me, he said, we don't have middle school in our town. I promise with you, you could go do a board exam with the boys. And which is a year later, is the government they changed. We had the high school, middle school. And I continue my middle school at the same school. And since every government has changed, becoming when his middle school is finished, I think how I could go to high school. My grandmother always had a passion for education. She is really I could study, and she moved me forward to give me more power. Said, I encourage your father to let you to go to Kabul, but it still doesn't work. But it's fortunately another regime is changed. We get a chance to go to high school. And I finished my beginning of high school, as I heard, is a lot of interesting story, as I seen in township. The girl doesn't have opportunity to a smaller town to go to school. I encourage my parents to allow me to go to the village and teach literacy. And that was the step I start empowering women in a little township. And me and my sister, we was a classmate, I encouraging her too. We could have started to teach other women and girls education. And I went through that education after my high school, finished my 1 o'clock and run to 2-hour walk to the township and teach 40 women and girl, young girl from age of 10 to age of 40 literacy.
We hear kids complaining that they have to walk 10 minutes to get to a bus.
That's
you
true.
know, and that's just so silly, and they have to wait outside, and you're walking an hour to 2 hours just to get.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
that's.
I'm going to come back and I want to unpack all that about your education and your helping women get inspired. But what I want to talk about as well is you're in a country at this time that is very war torn. All right, and so there's rockets at times, and there's explosions at times, and there's war at times. What was that like for you, and what did you experience growing up with this environment?
Actually, the town I grown up it was very dangerous, and our house was just close the street, just right that street, the main street, which is always all the tank, all the rocket, everything pass from the houses. We seen everything, so all the situation. We seen when the army is going to the north of the country, to the Kabul, pass from our house. It was very dangerous, and but we passed so many situations back in Afghanistan, like as when my father, my sibling, my uncles, my aunts, and the time when came is we was very depressing, like as we scare if something happened to us.
So what happened to your father, and what happened to some of your family?
Actually, that is the situation when brothers and when is the Isbe Islami attack and target our house, and we trying to kill my father and my grandfather, and the next day when that is a good chance for us when they came to attack us, and all the armies passing our house, and they escaped from our house, and we saved all the family safe at that time. And we left to right in early in the morning. We all went to my father and grandfather said to all the girls, take to the bus, and we came to the Kabul. And at that time when it happened, I was grade 12. Grade 12, and we came to Kabul, and we saved our life. And unfortunately, when I was grade 12 finished, I became a supervisor.
Okay.
I didn't stop. I again fighting against women's rights, and I continue to come to the township and to help women. And one day, when I was traveled to come from the Kabul to the village, I was a supervisor at that time, and we was 19 women, and our driver and one of the secretary was male, and right in is about 10 minutes later from the Kabul, we see is all the people was stop our bus, and just to say the driver to move on. And they move and they hijack our bus, and take us to the mountain. And the whole day we was set and stressed and cry, and they push us. They like as I was experienced when I seen that, and my eyes was so depressed when they took us to the mountain. I had a high heel, and I couldn't walk to the mountain with a high heel. And unfortunately, I had my job with me. I had it. They didn't say anything to this, but I take off my shoes. And the guy said, move fast. I couldn't move it, and he hit me with a gun, back of the gun. He said, move on. And like it's the same thing, not only me, all the women, they done. And we received reach the top of one of the place, all the women, was one group, and the men said is they interview us one by one, and we all scared, we all cry. We said it's dead. We was between dead and life, and fortunately, in the time as everyone is interviewed, and they get put in separate group. When they called me, Zarmina, when it's called me, he said, I was shivering. I said, it's time is between death and life. And they interview why you are going to teach us women and girls, as we all tell your father, don't go. I said, you know what? The reason I'm going to go to continue my working, we are a Muslim, and you are a Muslim too. When this lady to the township, they didn't know how to read a Quran, and that says I teach them Quran. And I teach them the alphabet. If they know the alphabet in Farsi, they know how to read Quran.
So this smart skill of you being so quick-witted and intelligent, you're able to convince them that you're actually going there to teach people how to read the Quran, which is a benefit to everyone else. But it's really not the truth, which is great. It saved your life because you weren't necessarily going there to teach anybody to read the Quran.
No.
You're going there.
No, our job was literacy, to teach math, languages, but not a Quran. But that make me challenge how could save my life.
Absolutely.
And if I didn't say that, I'm sure they kill me. And that was the chance when. It was my time when I arrived. It was very dark. We didn't see each other.
Now, at that moment, though, not everybody continued that journey that day, did they? There were people who were killed that day, or what did you see around you on that day?
At that day, when they separate us, and when my time has arrived, that was very dark, and we heard the voice. We heard the voice, we save you, we save you. And that is the army came from the helicopter from the top of the mountain, and on the ground. The army came from the ground too. And that time, and they knew that they arrived to save their people's life, and they escaped. They escaped when the army saved us our life, and they reach us. After we got safely back to the township after 24 hours, and we see 3 people missing. And 3 people, I never forget their name. It was Jamila, Najiba, and Nuria, Pashtun. These 3 people, one was married, 2 was single. We missed those 3, and they took them. And the parents heard, they never came back, and that they killed them. And we are the other 16 of us was the survivor. We get back safe our house and came to see our parents. My parents was like as they waiting for my funeral. They noticed that this happened, that they hijacked the bus, and they just expecting for me to the death is come. I scared to my life too. I said I pushed myself to go to teach, and I went to my aunt's house.
I get scared for you just listening to this.
Yeah,
it's.
I was goosebump. I said, okay, what I should do now? I'm scared for my parents because my father said, don't go because your life is not safe. My other children is not life safe, and myself as a father to support my 10 children. And I went to my aunt's house. To my aunt and my grandma protect me. I opened the door. As soon as I opened the door, I see my aunt was at the second floor of her house. She yelled, Zarmina's arrived. And I went and she hugged me and said, we are lucky to have you.
Yeah.
And she sent her daughter to my house. My mother came. When I see my mother, I couldn't believe it. I had a tear in my eyes.
I imagine.
My mother was struggling to see me, and she said, your father almost dead. He is in a home. He is waiting for your body, dead body. And we could find you or you didn't find you. But that was my story, and I came back safe from the group of tourists.
Yeah, and so then, wow, okay. So after this, at what point do you start teaching with the women and teaching about empowerment? What are you teaching them?
After that, I totally off. My father doesn't let me to go to school. I said, no university, no school. I want you could stay home and be my other children want to, but they safe. I don't let you to go. And for a while, I just said, encourage me. I know you have a passion for a school, but you don't have no choice. I don't want you to lose your life. And but he encouraged me to do knitting. I knit rag.
Yeah.
He hired a teacher for me to knit a rag and keep yourself busy.
Sure.
One day I was knitting the rag as my uncle came by. He said, are you not going to school? I said, no, my father doesn't let me to go anymore. I said, I could talk with your father. And he spoke with my father, and I went to, said, do you like to continue teaching? I said, yes. And he introduced me with one of his friends who was principal at school, and I continue back to my teaching and my education for university. And that was successfully, I complete my university and I'm teaching, and the regime is changed, and then I meet at my husband. Today's my husband at the university. He worked at the head office, and he was fall in love with me. And again, another situation, because I can't say to my parents, and that guy want me. I said, I'm sorry. I really have a passion for my education. Please don't stop me. And my father is very strict with this situation. And if you really like me, go tell my parents. And through this arrangement, my husband families came and arranged this meeting with my parents, and my parents was happy, and they meet the family. I married with Khalil. He's a wonderful person, and I'm lucky have him today. He gave the power for me, and I left over everything, and I married. And after married, 3 months later, as our house attacked with a rocket. And
hold on, your house was attacked with a rocket, and most people, I'm not even going to say most, I don't think there's anybody who's watching the show right now who is going to be able to understand that a house was hit with a rocket other than on TV or in a movie. So what's that moment like? Sorry, please continue.
Was when after 3 months when I married, I was my husband's house, and that was in January 4th. And January 4th, 1983.
Okay.
And the door is knocked, and was my brother-in-law talking, and they asking my husband to come out, and we were living together with my brother-in-law in the same house. And my husband went out, and he came right away back. He said, let's go, your father is very sick, we could go to the hospital. I said, okay. I pack up and get my jacket. It was cold winter. I went to the hospital. As soon as we reached the hospital, my brother-in-law and my husband talked to the doctors and nurses. They said, the father is died, and they take them home. I didn't realize what's happened in my family, and I came to my father's house. I see the house was destroyed. My father's dead body was in the front yard, and all the neighbors, everybody was in the and TV was there. Everybody was the country came in family, and I didn't see my mother, and I did see some siblings, just to see the door and the windows and everything's broken. Our room was my father was with my sibling and my mom. It was all the ceiling was down and fall down, and I heard my mother has got very serious injury. My two brother and one sister, two sisters and one my brother was very injured. And I was really, I couldn't, that shock killed me.
Well, your father's in the front yard. Your house his house has been destroyed by a rocket. It's devastated.
Yes. And I didn't know what happened to my mother. I just thinking about my father's body and all my siblings around me. And that stick me The funeral is done, everything's, we take my to the village which we grown up, we take our our father funeral. There is all the ceremonies done. We came back. I said, and that time I realized, where is my mom? I went to the hospital while my mom was in a coma. And I asked the doctor, please let me know, I could walk into the CRA, no, the recovery room. The recovery room, she was a recovery room. And I went there, I see my mother was in between dead and life too. And fortunately, my mom could survive. And one of the harm is still, she has a back, lost her, one of the big muscles on her arm, and leg is broken. So many things has happened, but it slowly heal up. And my father, and then my mother has come back and from the hospital, and we survived for that situation.
So after this happens, what's the timeline roughly between that and arriving in Canada?
And then my husband was did the army duties, which is one time.
Yeah.
And the second time, they forced him to do this job again.
Mm-hmm.
My husband said, I already had 2 years, and I don't want to go back.
He's done.
He's done. And fortunately, we had my daughter first, Huria, and she was just newborn, and said, we have to leave this country. We don't have no choice. And we escaped the country with my husband, my 6 months old daughter, and my mother-in-law. We came to Pakistan. We was in Pakistan for a while and survived. Still was teaching. I did not stop my teaching.
Good.
I continue my teaching. I had a literacy for adults in my own house, in a school, which is with a grade 2 teacher in a school, a Mujahideen school at that time. And I continued the same thing, teaching adult English and Persian.
Oh, wow.
Dari in my own house. They come to my house and they teach them, and that was my job, to survive and make money for myself, or to help my husband, and also teach women when they come to out of the country, they know how to speak English.
Awesome.
A little bit. Good. I was during the day, I go to English school, and during the night, during the day, teach the women's ABC.
This is so funny. So then you go from Pakistan. Why Canada? What brought you to Canada?
One day I was just home. The mailman came, has brought a letter for me. I see the letter is from my aunt. I said, wow, what a surprise. She is live in Canada. I knew she's live in Canada, and she contact with my mother. Where is Zarmina? Zarmina is in Pakistan. That time we don't have any phone call, anything about my family. The only things, every 6 months or a year, we could receive a letter from my parent, my sibling and my mom. I don't know any contact. But is the time arrived as God bringing angel for me. A letter from my aunt. On a letter said, are you interested to come Canada? I said, why not? I spoke with my husband. I said, my aunt sent a letter to go to Canada. I said, send your resume, your information. And my husband said, do you think they could sponsor us? I said, we could send all our information, probably we could get a chance. And a month later, I received a package from Canada Embassy. I said, wow, this is so fast. And then I fill up all the forms, sent it to the Canada Embassy in Pakistan. 3 months later, we received interview.
Wow.
We went for interview. And also we finished interview, came back to Karachi, and we wait. A month later, it came the medical report. It said you have to do your medical report done. I finished that, and everything is done for 6 months. 6 months. I was pregnant too at that time for my second child.
So how long after that until you're actually in Canada?
Only 6 months take a time.
So when you get here, you're finally in Canada. You've gone through the incredible application. You're finally here. What's it like when you're in Canada, and I mean that in more of a, what was it like for you? Did you find Canada welcoming to you when you arrived?
When I came to Canada, I seen everything. As was said, that's my second steps life start. As I thinking, I'm sure we are safe and we have a good life in here. I'm sure I could help my family, and I will be see hear my family voice.
And I'm sure your neighbors around you, maybe some of them have gotten to know you a little bit and you've been able to share your story, but there must be something too that you must watch the news and watch people do awful things or say awful things against Muslims, or they compare everybody with ISIS, or they don't understand the extreme aspect of it. What is it like for you when you watch the news? Do you see good things or bad things with?
Actually, that is really sometimes when I think about I have experience with that. Mm-hmm. When I was 9/11 has happened, I was just walking. I was doing my break time to the staff room, and one of the teacher walked in and said, "Zarmina, because of you guys, all our country is destroyed." I said, "What?" I said, wow. Because of you, because you people are terrorists. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not a tourist. I came to this country to be safe, to have a peace life.
And that's fear and hate mongering for somebody to say that to you like that.
It was really hurting me. Yeah. I said, everybody in the media see people with their job, see people with a different attitude. Like I said, you know what? All people is not the same. Mm-hmm. We came to this Canada. I love Canada because this country gave me a life, second chance life, and I have a beautiful family around me. I help my family, and that is Canada is the best place to live. I always thinking. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. Is Valentine's only not love for husband, wife, or love is family. Yeah. Valentine's for me to be volunteer, to help other people, to taking a chance to this country. I am here, and it is not like as I'm a Muslim, I'm just wouldn't do anything for this country. Yeah. I'm a Muslim. I am believe for my religion, but I respect other culture, other religion, and I would like to practice, to see, to know, to teach my children, my grandchildren, what is every religion, every culture has a good and a bad.
Absolutely.
It is not like as everybody, all
Christians,
the
Muslims, there's so many different religions. So before we go, I want to ask you about your book.
Actually, that's make me the book to empower women and girls in Afghanistan is the Hockey Girls of Kabul. I'm the one is take like is my Canadian culture to Afghanistan. Yeah. This is my power to empower women and girls, educated women and girls in Afghanistan with sport. Sport hockey is my passion because when I came, I didn't know about hockey. Yeah. And my son is play hockey. Yeah. He was one of the encouragement for me to transfer hockey sport to Afghanistan. In the book, when I came back, I wrote a book about it to raise money to build more hockey rink in Afghanistan. And that is my point, to empower women, empower girls, and be active women in Canada, in Afghanistan.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be on my show today, Zarmina. You are inspiring and amazing, and I love your love for this country and for everything that you do and for your family. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for coming and have me your guest for your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.